I hope you can all hear me okay. Those who would know me would say it's not very often that people have a difficult time hearing me. My last name is Pavlik. It's an old Scandinavian name made up of two Swedish words, pav, which means loud, and lik, which means very. My first name is Kevin, not the one they call Spoons, but the other one, the one that ate 2 chickens in class, or 2 watermelons, or drank 2.5 gallons of milk, depending on the story you heard. I'd like to begin by thanking the parents, grandparents, relatives, roommates, siblings, significant others, and friends of the College of Health Professions Pharmacy graduating class of 2016 for being here today. We can finally answer the question many of you have been asking us over the past couple of years. Have you graduated yet? Your support during those years and your presence today means a great deal, perhaps more than you may know. I wouldn't be standing here if not for the support of those dear to me, and I wager that the young men and women whom I've spent the last 4 years with would say the same. So from all of us, thank you. Fellow graduates, the day we've all been looking forward to is finally here. As one of your classmates, I would like to extend a hearty congratulations to all of you on the hard work and success that has brought you here. I think each of us at some point or another during our time in Sudro wondered if this day would ever come. The hours spent studying and worrying over exams, quizzes, and practicals seemed, at the time, interminable. Now, at the end of our academic careers, we can fondly look back on our time together in the program, remembering as far back as our welcoming day, where in Sudro 24, Dean Peterson, Dr. Friesner, and Dr. Naughton welcomed 85 anxious students into the College of Pharmacy. Each of us can still feel in our stomachs that terrible lurching sensation when Dr. Sylvester addressed you by first name and asked you a question in class. In our minds, we can relive that wonderful feeling of turning in the final renal exam, knowing we would never take another such thing again. We know now that the golden rule is not do unto others as you would have done unto you, but rather it's nobody better sit in my seat, because I've been sitting in the same seat since the first day of P1 year. We know now that obvious mistakes are not often made, but when they are, it's during a lab practical, and hands that shake when nervous do no favors when trying to compound capsules. Each of us knows exactly what it took to get here. We have all had our share of the disappointing personal failures and inner triumphs that come with being a dedicated student. So from one who has struggled beside you through it all in the crucible of pharmacy education, congratulations. Each of you has earned your right to be here today. However, before you walk across the stage, I'm afraid I have one final question that I must ask you. You won't find the answer in your notes. The question won't appear on the NAPLEX or the law exam, and yet its importance today is absolute. The question is this: why are you here? Simple enough. A straightforward question. It cannot be that hard to answer. It is, after all, only 4 words. However, do not misunderstand me. The question is not what made you decide to pursue pharmacy. A question no doubt you have answered many times at job interviews and family get-togethers. If you're like me, you usually had an answer prepared, maybe a funny story or anecdote, short and entertaining, but never anything too serious. And if you're like me, you found yourself at a young age drawn to the medical world, and pharmacy seemed to fit best. Indeed, it did not take me long to realize that I do not love teeth enough to be a dentist, my hands are not steady enough to be a surgeon, and my heart is not big enough to be a nurse. Realizing the answer to the question of why you and I are here today took me several years and a great deal of reflection. And so today I'd like to share how I found that answer. To do so, we go back to the year 2010, to the not-so-far-off land of Big Lake, Minnesota. It's a warm Saturday morning in late August, and Sherry Pavlik is frantically scanning the sticky notes on her kitchen counter. On them are reminders of things to pack, forms to fill out, checks to write, and a single sticky note reminding her to buy more sticky notes. Outside, her husband Jerry makes the final touches for prepping the family college van. A hideous, rusty, hubcap-missing green minivan that, despite the desperate efforts of two lead-footed older sisters, refuses to die, seemingly out of spite. In short, Jerry and Sherry are preparing to send their son and final child off to college. As I finished helping my dad load the van, he turned to me and with a firm handshake imposed some parting advice. He said, "Remember why you're there." No doubt an important lesson from father to son that there was more to college than chasing girls around and seeing how fast a bottle of suds can go down. However, by providence or by chance, those words continued to ring in my ears long after that warm August morning. During my first 3 years at NDSU, I found myself completely unable to answer that question, why I was there. Was choosing pharmacy a mistake? Is this really where I'm meant to be? Surely these inner doubts ring a bell with more than a few of you. During this time in our P2 year, my grandfather, who had previously been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, had begun to decline. On one of our holiday breaks, my family and I visited him at the memory care facility he had recently moved into. His disease had progressed to the point where simple tasks had become very difficult, if not impossible, for him to perform, and he had great difficulty recognizing those he once knew dearly. We sat with him for some time, making idle conversation, my mother and sisters struggling in vain to hide their tears as my dad helped him drink some hot chocolate, he being unable to raise the cup to his lips. I was stricken by the gross unfairness of it. Here, a once proud veteran and father who raised 6 kids in a 3-bedroom farmhouse, now no longer able to feed himself. I, unable to find words, kept silent by this moment of profound sadness. It is a scene that has since been etched into my mind. After some time, my grandfather's nurse came by and with a steady hand and gentle voice, led him back to his room. That was our last time together. At his wake, 2 young men who I did not recognize entered and had a brief word with my dad. As they talked, a faint smile came to my dad's face, and he shook their hands and saw them out. When I asked who they were, he told me they were the nurses who took care of my grandfather and that they wanted to give their condolences. They didn't have to be there, they didn't personally know any of us, and yet took time out of their busy schedule to come and offer some last comfort to a grieving family. To this day, my dad still holds those 2 men in high esteem. Seeing the impact a healthcare professional can have, both on a patient and on their family, became, at that time, very clear to me. I thought I should be lucky to have the opportunity to make a fraction of a difference on a patient's life as these 2 men had made on mine and that of my family. For the first time in my life since setting on foot on NDSU's campus as a nervous freshman, I felt that pharmacy was where I needed to be. That is my story. That's what brought me here today. Each of you has your own story and a reason you are here, which I would hope goes far beyond a paycheck, a dream house, a luxurious car, or other worldly comfort. Though those things are nice and make life a little easier, they are not why you and I are here. We as pharmacists are a small part of the large healthcare world. As medicine experts, our role may be limited, but we are the face of medicine to the patients, and as such are in a position to leave a lasting impression upon them. An act of kindness, even one that may seem infinitely small to you or I, can have an effect so profound that it ripples through the patient's family as it did in mine. Those 2 nurses showed me that. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be easy to dehumanize pharmacy, to get lost in the numbers, if you will. Metformin, 1,000 milligrams BID, vancomycin, 1.5 grams Q36 hours, warfarin, 5 milligrams daily, hold if INR greater than 3.5, norepinephrine, 1.2 mics per kilo per minute, titrate GOMAP greater than 65. We get lost in the numbers when we target doses, intervals, or concentrations, and forget that there is a person on the other side of those calculations. A real, living, breathing person with fears and doubts who entrusts us with a very personal and sensitive part of their lives, hoping that we and our colleagues can restore them back to health. Graduates, you and I are here today because the patient needs us to be here. We are beginning careers of servitude, one where the patient's voice and well-being drives our decision-making. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that pharmacy or healthcare is in any way more important or nobler than other careers. Every person has the ability to do good and be kind to those they work with. Some may think this notion of doing good sounds fanciful and unrealistic and simply not how the real world works. The real world, which includes pharmacy, is full of difficult people, early mornings, late evenings, stressful deadlines, phone calls with horrendous on-hold music, doctor's handwriting that looks closer to Egyptian hieroglyphics than written English, and plain old bad days. In the midst of the monotony, repetition, and day in, day out responsibilities that come with our jobs, it can be difficult, if not impossible, to find the good in the work we do. As a result, it can be all too easy to do that which benefits ourselves, that makes our lives easier, that doesn't require an extra effort. However, it is in these moments of monotony, these moments of repetition, of stress and frustration, these days that feel like they will never end, that the power of choice becomes paramount. We can react to the realities of the world by looking out for ourselves and doing that which serves our interests. Or we can choose to step up, to show kindness, to listen to the better angels of our nature and put the needs of the patient above our own. I'm not asking you to be some sort of super pharmacist, immune to the stresses of the real world. We are only human after all. I only ask that in the hour that you find yourself stretched thin and overworked, surrounded by ringing phones and with a to-do list so long it should have chapters, wondering why on earth you picked pharmacy in the first place, that you step back, take a deep breath, and remember why you're there. Thank you. Go bye.